Hi guys, welcome back to 100% Mag. So I hope you're all staying safe and well out there. So Newcastle, of course, take on Fulham in the fourth round of the FA Cup down at Craven Cottage this Saturday, 7 o'clock kickoff, and it is on, of course, ITV4 and ITVX. This game, of course, if it is level after 90 minutes, will then be staged as a replay at St James's Park. Of course, the FA have said that this game, of course, if it did have to be a replay, it would be on Tuesday, February 6th, but that isn't a fixed date and it could be altered for TV. But hopefully, we don't have to go to that. Hopefully, we get the job done on Saturday and progress through to the fifth round of the FA Cup. Of course, we've made it to this round because we beat our rivals, of course, Sunderland, in the last round of the FA Cup, and now we have a chance to make it to the fifth round if we can progress past Fulham in this game on Saturday. Like I say, 7 o'clock kickoff for this game. We've already played Fulham this season. We won 3-0 in the league against them. We're still yet to play them in the return fixture, which is due in April coming, of course. But let's see what happens in this game, on Saturday. There's a lot to talk about this game. Of course, the draw for this next round, whoever progresses through this game, of course, is done on Sunday around 2 o'clock on ITV before, of course, ITV show their live broadcast of Liverpool versus Norwich, which is kicking off on Sunday at around 2:30. Newcastle or Fulham, whoever progresses through this match, unless it, of course, ends in a replay. Then, of course, the ball number is number 16 for whoever progresses through to the next round. Hopefully, it is us Newcastle fans that will be enjoying the victory on Saturday. But speaking to the press this morning, Eddie Howe has confirmed that Jacob Murphy was back in training but stopped short of saying that, of course, he'd play on Saturday. Also, he talked about, of course, Joel Linton getting surgery on a thigh issue. He also talked about Nicky Pope and Sandro Tonali, of course, who will also be sidelined for the game. He also talked about Joe Willock, Harvey Barnes, and Callum Wilson as well, and where they are at their stages of their injuries at the moment. And they're all at various stages, he said, from returning from their injuries, but isn't anticipating that any of them will play in the game, of course, on Saturday. He also talked about Matt Targett and Elliot Anderson as well, and that they are also on their comeback trail, but there's no firm date yet on when they will return. And of course, he talked about Joe White as well, back on Tyneside, training with the first team squad following a half-season loan with Crewe Alexandra, but he is cup-tied, so he will not be available for this competition. On the Fulham side of things, Amadou Traore remains unavailable. While we had a fortnight to prepare for this game, Fulham, however, had to play a game in the second leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final on Wednesday, of course, where they lost 3-2 on aggregate to Liverpool after, of course, the 1-1 draw at home to Liverpool. They ended up losing 3-2 on aggregate, which means that Liverpool now progress through to the final, where they will meet, of course, Chelsea in the final, which could have been us in the final, I've got to say. We could have really been in there, if not for the bad luck of officiating, which unfortunately the official for that game that were played in the Carabao Cup defeat to Chelsea, of course, is the official once again for this game, Jared Gillette. Second post in the season for the Aussie-based Scouser, who was, of course, like I say, in charge of that Carabao Cup defeat to Chelsea. And on VAR, it will be Rob Jones. Now, looking at, of course, our history against Fulham in this competition. This will be the fifth time that we've played them in the FA Cup, and we do have a 100% record to date against Fulham in this competition. Of course, the first ever game we played against them was back in 1907-08 season, where we went on, of course, to win the game 6-0. We also then went on to end up the runners-up of that year's FA Cup, of course, with Wolves somehow managing to win the game in the final at Crystal Palace. It was that year. They won that game, of course, 3-1. Wolves against Newcastle in the final of the 1907-08 FA Cup. The 1909-10 FA Cup, which of course ended up seeing Newcastle United win it in the end. Of course, we did beat Fulham 4-0 en route to winning that FA Cup that year. 2 goals in the FA Cup final, of course, of that year from Albert Shepherd after a score draw at Palace in the first game, which resulted in, of course, the game having to then be played again at Goodison Park, where Newcastle, of course, ended up winning the game. Then the 55-56 game against Fulham, of course, seen us win 5-4 in the 4th round against them. And then the 60-61 game, which seen we'll win 5-0 in the 3rd round against Fulham. So looking at it, this game definitely produces goals. It produces a lot of goals. I mean, just looking at the goals there, 6-0 in the first one, 4-0 in the second one, 5-4 in the third one, and 5-0 in the 5th one, So that in itself shows that we scored a lot of goals against Fulham in this competition. And I think this will be, again, another similar situation once again for this one. I do believe we'll have enough in the tank to come away from this game and progress through to that next round of the FA Cup, that 5th round, of course, of the FA Cup. And let's see if we can possibly get an easier tie. We haven't had the best of luck this season, let's face it, with the draws. We had the toughest Champions League group, that's ever been produced by UEFA, fitting that it was ever the last one again. That UEFA now going to a league format instead of the group stages, so it was fitting that the toughest group that they've ever produced would of course be the last time that they ever produce a group for UEFA, say, Champions League competition. And looking at it, we haven't had the best of luck in the League Cup one. Neither we ended up with Man City, then we ended up with Man U, then we ended up with Chelsea, which that in itself wasn't great. But this game, I do feel we've got everything in the tank to come away with a result in this game. And, hopefully, fingers crossed, we do get to see some of them players like Harvey Barnes maybe getting a go. We have seen him post on his social media, a picture of his football boots and a full battery. So who knows, he might be able to come off the bench for this one. But let's see, what happens in the game on Saturday. Give us your thoughts down in the comments below. Any Fulham fans, if you're watching as well, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below going into this one. And a little bit on the transfer side of the news, of course, before we end off this preview. There has been a recent footage circulating around of Miggy going into the RVI in Newcastle with what looks to be a member of our coaching staff. He seems to be walking pretty fine into the RVI, and the coaching staff member does have paperwork in his hand. So maybe, this could be a medical with a move away from Newcastle United. And some people might be saying, why would he be having a medical, at Newcastle before making a move? Maybe it's a move out to Saudi Arabia, and they don't want to send him all the way out there in case he gets all the way out there, he fails the medical, and then you've got to bring the player all the way back. So, this way, if it is a move to Saudi Arabia, then he has the medical in Newcastle. The paperwork gets sent across digitally, of course, to the people in Saudi Arabia who are on the other end, of course, of the deal. And then that way they know that, the player has passed the medical, and then he's available to go straight across on a flight. Maybe it's after the game on Saturday, or maybe, straight away. And then that allows us to maybe get in some extra bodies in the window, But let's wait and see on it. I don't want to speculate too much. because it's only just a little bit of footage showing him going into the RVI, so it could be something completely different, but that's my thoughts on the situation. Let us know your thoughts, of course, down in the comments below. And if you have liked this video, please do hit that like button, and please do consider sharing and subscribing to the channel as well, as it does help the channel to grow. And I'll see you all for the next one. All right, lads.